Ekitike is a fantastic player, but he's not going to usurp Alexander Isak in the starting 11. He might play alongside him, but if it's a choice between Ekitike and Isak, Slot, I think, is taking Isak 9 times out of 10, especially if they're both in form.
Talking about this Crystal Palace side, they are unbeaten in their last 17 matches.
Mm-hmm. Is that good?
Add a cut to that.
Feels like it's good.
That's pretty good. Hey, I think the Man United fan who's growing his hair needs to switch to Palace. He would have gotten a haircut a long time ago.
Like the 5 in a row. Every time I hear that, I'm like, bro, what were you thinking? No one does this. He's going to grow it forever. Sorry. Beside the point.
That's an absolutely impossible task. But how has Oliver Glasner been able to do this for this Crystal Palace side?
Cohesion, consistency, and more than anything, a clear structure and plan. We talk about elite managers all the time across Europe. There isn't many better than Oliver Glasner. And the reason why I say that is because I judge management not just in terms of the squad that you inherit, but can you make good players better? And that's what he seems to be able to do consistently. This squad really understands in terms of what they want from him, the structure of the requirements going into each game, and how good do they look defensively. Like defensively across Europe, I would trust them as well as Arsenal, as well as your Barcelonas. Maybe that's a question mark in its own right. But your Inter Milans, because of the sheer fact of they just understand tactically what they require from the manager, both on and off the ball. And if you watch the subtlety in their play, they know when to drop as a backline, they know when to counter press, and they really do work as a complete unit. They're never scared in terms of when to tuck in and to contain as a team, get 11 men behind the ball, but at the same time they can spring, they can break on you, and that's why they seem to be winning these competitions. I mean, I'm disrespecting him. It isn't just an FA Cup he's got. He's also got a Community Shield that he needs to add to his resume. I think there hasn't been many more impressive managers over the last 12 to 18 months than this guy right here.
Everything you said is spot on. Structure and fluidity are the 2 things that come to mind when I think about this Crystal Palace. The structure that Glasner has built where everyone knows their roles. When you watch them in rest defense, when you watch them when the other team has the ball, when you watch them counter press, when you watch them counter, everything is so well structured, but they also have a lot of fluidity in midfield. You see Adam Wharton controlling things in the middle of the park. You see the creativity that their players are allowed to have in the final third. Oliver Glasner is a manager that I think a lot of teams would want at their helm. And there's a reason I think there are a lot of teams connected to his name. He has shown since he came to this job at Crystal Palace, he understands how to get results. He understands how to get the best out of his players. He understands how to get the best out of his team as a whole. And he knows how to win. That is a combination that is very, very
I know
rare
you
in
have
this
been
game.
desperate
He is a top
to chat about this.
That's the key point
go on then. So talk me through it. What did you make of one, the celebration, and then 2,
teams have not been able to do against Liverpool this year? We've seen a slew of teams go toe-to-toe with Liverpool, and then all of a sudden in stoppage time or in the last 5 minutes, there's a fluky handball. There's something happens that mismanages the game, and Liverpool gets a win. Look at how much Chris Richards, just as one example, has developed in this system.
I grew up in a small
country. Look at the defensive job that Crystal Palace did in that cup final to see that game out. You want to see if this team, if there is a team so far that Liverpool have faced that can actually not just go to toe with them, but actually see out a result. Crystal Palace might be the best side that they've faced so far this year in terms of being able to do that.
And we talk about it all the time, the managers that come from the Pep Guardiola tree, right? You talk about Enzo Maresca and Mikel Arteta, who are doing so well. But maybe we need to start talking about the managers that are coming from the Roger Smith tree, because that Salzburg team that had created and created so much history in terms of Austria has been fantastic. But look at the coaching staff.
I will do that.
The rules, though. I mean, whatever they did as a team has clearly had ripple effects in terms of management level.
Please, I know the rules is a rule, but
I've seen so many people come from that tree and do so many amazing things in football, and this guy is carrying the flag in terms of as one of the leaders.
This is what we do.
Now, this is also such a huge matchup because Palace's Marc Guéhi, he was linked to Liverpool and it fell through on deadline day.
Has any of the players have been asked about that rule?
Of course, we love to hear all the rumors that are always going around, and there's a rumor that he could be joining them in January. So
you're the
you have a couple
captain, right?
months
You're playing there. You're in the cup game. There's 5 minutes still to go. Your striker has scored the goal. Yes, you've gone 2-1 up, but now
Liverpool side,
you've got to play the last 10 minutes or so of the game out with 10 men. Are you happy with him? are you not wanting an apology of him?
No, I don't need an apology.
I would say so consistent in terms of what he's been able to do.
I mean, that's what cost his team.
Yeah, of course the team. He did.
I mean,
if he actually stands next to
happened before, but what I want to say is that when players are not being asked how they feel about it,
which is a decent size.
Sometimes
in this presence, when you have
as a human being, as a referee, you have to understand that the players want to celebrate. They want to celebrate with the fans.
Shy away from any
celebrations.
Don't take the shot if you're on the yellow already.
Put it that way. If that rule
he's
is banned
just
tomorrow,
developed so much and leaps and bounds.
Nobody will bother about it. Nobody will even pay attention to it.
I think from the position that you're saying about it being the rule,
and I thought to myself,
I think
this is a really
it's still to me it always seems a bit silly. Like why is that such a? We all as I think football fans, not even necessarily as a player. I think as a fan, I'd take him top off in the pub before when someone scored. Do you know what I mean? It can just happen.
If there's a weakness for Liverpool,
I think he knows the rules in this scenario.
Especially about the
you think you've got to be smarter than that?
At this point, you're trying to find any weakness that
remember they've got it.
And then you're just going to bring him in.
Clearly not. No, clearly.
That's the way football is 100 miles an hour.
You know, like Liverpool could just keep. Let's take Isak. Let's take this man. Let's just keep strengthening this side that was already the best in England, and that's what if this would turn out to happen.
You won't even consider the consequences.
But I like what you talked about the size. We're going to talk about a player who's about to retire a little bit later.
Well, look,
he doesn't look like
there's one player that I think might feel the pressure a little bit
sometimes
on the
players
fact
don't fit the
that Hugo
profile
Ekitike is
of
out
what
of
their
the squad.
size,
Alexander Isak, right?
What the
He's coming back
statistics say
from
about their
fitness,
size
and I
and
think
weight. It's
that's
about
the main issue here is that
it's about
fitness
the way they
pressure
read the
almost
game and the way
on
they get stuck
Alexander
in.
Isak. He only played X amount of minutes in the game in midweek. He got to the half time and then he got taken off. And I think as soon as he got taken off as well, he got his goal here that you can see. As soon as he got taken off though, he was sent straight out, didn't even go down the tunnel to go and do shuttle runs.
I mean, rarely ever see him.
Do you think here he is taking those shuttle runs? Do you think, Julian, that the pressure on him now is going to be quite high?
A little bit, maybe more physically because of match fitness than anything else. Because we think that he would have started on the bench for the game against Crystal Palace on Saturday, that Ekitike would have started, now Ekitike suspended,
he is destined for one of
and that Isak would have started the game in the Champions League next week, which now he would have to play on Saturday and then potentially
I would like to see Crystal Palace hold on to a player like this because they're
which is what they're trying to avoid, for him to start back-to-back games with just 3 days apart, 4 days apart, because physically he's still probably not ready, considering he hadn't started the game since May, obviously at the end of last season, didn't have a proper pre-season because of what happened with Newcastle, so they just wanted to be cautious with him, and rightly so. So that changes a little bit. It's just a one-match ban. You can still go back to the rhythm that you wanted, and inevitably at some point, very soon now, Isak will be ready to start every game and play 90 minutes in the love. So for now, it's just disturbed a little bit. I think the planning that they had for them to rotate and alternate, that changes a little bit.
Real Madrid will always be Real Madrid, and that's just how it is. A couple clubs have been able to jump.
There's this really ominous feeling about if Liverpool go and beat Crystal Palace this weekend,
pump a whole bunch of money
is that how it's going to go for the rest of the season? You know, is this quite a defining weekend?
They don't have the name. They're not Arsenal. They're not Chelsea.
I'm an Arsenal fan. I like you saying that.
It's still a long way to go.
History doesn't change. Barcelona's always going to be calling. Real Madrid always.
History doesn't change. I'm old enough.
Who do you think they are? They're a local club that are overachieving because of the sheer history of the club. That's why the FA Cup, that's why the Community Shield means so much to them. They're a local club with local infrastructure that's really over. They're the heartbeat of South London. They are. They have the best fan base down there. But let's think about some of the people that have come through this tutelage most recently. Will Zaha, why didn't he stay and establish himself? Why couldn't he take it to another level? Michael Elise. There are certain clubs that you look at and you understand and recognise this is as far as it's going to go. And you talk about those conglomerates, well, they're still owned by local businessmen in London.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Paris. So when you're trying to compete with the Saudis who have taken over so much in both Manchester and Newcastle, or the Americans who have taken over so much when you talk about at Chelsea or in Arsenal, a local businessman in London is still a fantastic story, but in the weight of world football, that's not going to get you to the next level right now.
So moving on to Liverpool, I was going to continue with Palace. We could keep going all day, but let's talk a little bit.
We got some good keep going all day topics.
Let's talk about this Liverpool side.
I root for the little guy. What do you want to say?
Let's talk about the big guy right now, sitting at the top of the standings, because Alexander Isak was a move that we were able to see in the summer transfer window. There's a chance that he does make his first Premier League start this weekend.
Thanks to Ekitike, almost certainly he'll be making it out.
One negative for one person is another positive for another person. You got to take the chances that you're given. Do you think that he does take this chance to prove himself that he does deserve to get the start week in and week out?
Alexander Isak is a long-term starter for this Liverpool squad. You don't spend a world record fee on a player of his caliber to not start him most games. Ugo Ekitike is a fantastic player, but he's not going to usurp Alexander Isak in the starting 11. He might play alongside him, but if it's a choice between Ekitike and Isak, Slot, I think, is taking Isak 9 times out of 10, especially if they're both in form. Isak is the perfect player for this Liverpool team. He's rangy, he can run in behind. He's so technical. He can finish just about anything. He's such a smooth, buttery player. We've spoken ad nauseum about his characteristics. This Isak is tailor-made for Liverpool, and he will fire them to a trophy almost certainly. He's going to start this weekend. I'm really interested to see how he does against this Crystal Palace back three, and I'm really interested to see if he can go 90. That's the biggest question when you talk about Alexander Isak, is his fitness. I don't know if he's ready to go 90. Who comes in for him if that is the case? Probably Federico Chiesa. But the fitness for Isak is the biggest concern. The quality is not a concern in the slightest.
I just think his stats speak for himself, and his celebration is one of my favourites in the league right now. This when he's telling everybody to get out of his way, that's one of my favourite things in world football, because when this guy is flowing, when this guy is scoring, when he's full of confidence, and leave the drama in terms of off the pitch, he is one of the best number 9s in world football, and he's joined a team that is super ambitious, clearly want to build some sort of dynasty or legacy as Liverpool Football Club going forward, and I think he's hitting form at the right time, because you're right, let's be honest, he never had a pre-season. He had a pre-season of trying to build his own fitness by himself away from his previous club. So now all of these minutes right now are just about getting, your confidence, your understanding, your rhythm once again. Now he's had all of those and had exposure to first team football. You are about to see a different type of animal up top, because he has everything to prove. He has everything to turn around and showcase to the world. This is the reason why I'm the British transfer record, and this is the reason why I wanted to move to Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool has really been living life on the edge. We'll see if it can be sustainable, especially against a Palace side as they play each other this weekend.
On a slot on Hugo Ekitike. Nat Stillion, I know you have been desperate to chat about this.
I'm not.
Go on then. So talk me through it. What did you make of, one, the celebration, and then two, the sending off, and obviously the comments there from the manager?
Anaslo just said he apologised. You should never apologise for scoring a goal. Listen, Ekitike, he's been incredible. I've been really impressed, and I'm talking from my point of view. I grew up in a small country, and I always wanted to play in the Premier League. That was my dream. That's what I worked out. I got up in the morning, and I want to play in the Premier League. I wanted to be part of those exciting moments, scoring good goals in front of the full stadiums. Those players come to this league, they're working every day, and they score a goal, and you get punished for that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree. If I'm Ekitike, I will send a letter to FA and ask the referee to pay my fine. Honestly, I will do that.
It's the rules, though.
Let's get it right.
Please.
I know the rules is a rule, but this is the excitement of football. This is what we as the players, that's what we work for. This is what we do. The enthusiasm, the adrenaline, scoring a goal, making the fans happy. Has any of the players been asked about that rule? What they feel like?
Okay, my question to you would then be, you've captained sides, right? So you're the captain, right? You're playing there, you're in the cup game, there's 5 minutes still to go. Your striker has scored the goal. Yes, you've gone 2-1 up, but now you've got to play the last, 10 minutes or so of the game out with 10 men. Are you happy with him? Are you not wanting an apology of him?
No, I don't need an apology of him. What do you mean apology?
Well, that could have cost his team.
Yeah.
That could have cost the team, though. He didn't in the end, but
it happened before, but what I want to say is like, why the players have not been asked how they feel about it. I mean, sometimes as a human being, as a referee, you have to understand that the players want to celebrate. They want to celebrate with the fans.
But you can still celebrate, just don't take the shot off if you're on yellow already.
Put it that way, if that rule is banned tomorrow, nobody will care.
Yeah,
nobody will bother about it.
I think
nobody will even pay attention to it.
I think from the position that you're saying about it being the rule, it's still to me it always seems a bit silly. Like why is that such a rule? We all, as I think football fan, I think not even necessarily as a player, I think as a fan, like I've taken my top off in the pub before when someone scored. Do you know what I mean? It can just happen. But I think he knows the rules in this scenario. You think you've got to be smarter than that?
Do you think in that moment he even remembered that you've got it yellow?
Yeah, I mean, who knows?
You don't.
Yeah, clearly not.
Don't.
No, clearly
That's the way
not.
Football is 100 miles an hour. Yeah. The excitement is there. It's about, scoring and winning the game, celebrating. And you wouldn't not even thought about that yellow card, and you won't even consider the consequences after. But apologising, do me a favour.
Well, look. There's one player that I think might feel the pressure a little bit on the fact that Hugo Ekitike is out of the squad. Alexander Isak, right? He's coming back from fitness, and I think that's the main issue here is that fitness pressure almost on Alexander Isak. He only played X amount of minutes in the game in midweek. Well, he got to the half time and then he got taken off. And I think as soon as he got taken off as well, obviously he got his goal here that we can see. As soon as he got taken off though, he was sent straight out. Didn't even go down the tunnel to go and do shuttle runs. I mean, do you think here he is taking on those shuttle runs? Do you think, Julian, that the pressure on him now is going to be quite high?
A little bit, maybe more physically because of match fitness than anything else. Because we think that he would have started on the bench for the game against Crystal Palace on Saturday. That Ekitike would have started. Now Ekitike is suspended, and that Isak would have started the game in the Champions League next week, which now he would have to play on Saturday and then potentially, it's up to Arne Slot, on Tuesday as well in the Champions League, which is what they're trying to avoid, for him to start back-to-back games with just 3 days apart or 4 days apart, because physically he's still probably not ready, considering he hadn't started a game since May, obviously at the end of last season, didn't have a proper pre-season because of what happened with Newcastle. So they just wanted to be cautious with him, and rightly so. So that changes a little bit, but it's just a one-match ban. You can still go back to the rhythm that you wanted, and inevitably at some point, very soon now, Isak will be ready to start every game and play 90 minutes in a lot of those games. So for now, it's just disturbed a little bit. I think the planning that they had for them to rotate and alternate, that changes a little bit,
Yeah, and still, look, we're at the start of the league still, but there's this really ominous feeling about if Liverpool go and beat Crystal Palace this weekend, is that how it's going to go for the rest of the season? Is this quite a defining weekend, do you reckon?
Not at all. You don't win the league in the first 5 games of the season.
Hey, look, I'm an Arsenal fan. I like you saying that. I like you saying that. Yeah.
It's still a long way to go. And, just touching on Isak, I think Arne Slot is well aware that you don't win the league that early in the season. But he will need Isak in the long term. He's making sure his body is prepared for a long season. He would like him to play 2 to 3 games a week sometime. He want him to be available, but to do that, you have to go through a certain process. You have to make sure your muscles, your body is ready to compete in the highest level for longer periods of time. And it's a well-structured plan. I think he's doing really well. Isak, I'm really excited to see what he's going to do this season, because I think he can make a big difference for Liverpool.
Arsenal star Noni Madueke breaks silence after injury setback confirmed by Mikel Arteta. Arsenal winger Noni Madueke has spoken out for the first time following the knee injury that has ruled him out for several weeks, as confirmed by manager Mikel Arteta. The 23-year-old suffered the setback early in last weekend's clash against Manchester City, and is now expected to be sidelined for 6 to 8 weeks. Taking to Instagram, Madueke shared a verse from Philippians 4 verse 6, NLT. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need, and thank Him for all He has done. The post offers a glimpse into the player's mindset, leaning on faith, staying grounded, and remaining positive in the face of adversity. Since his high-profile and somewhat surprising £48.5 million move from Chelsea, Madueke has quickly won over Arsenal fans with his energy, flair, and attacking presence. While eyebrows were initially raised at the transfer fee, few now question his impact, both for Arsenal and the England national team, where he recently netted his first goal in a 5-0 win over Serbia in Belgrade. Speaking ahead of Arsenal's League Cup tie against Port Vale, Arteta provided further updates on the situation. He'll be out for a few weeks. We're not entirely sure yet. We'll likely do another scan next week, Arteta said. He felt something early in the match and tried to carry on, but by half-time the pain had worsened. Thankfully, early indications suggest Madueke has avoided a serious ACL injury. When asked whether a short-term absence is more likely than a months-long layoff, Arteta added, "We hope so. As I said, we still need to assess it fully, but it doesn't seem too severe at the moment." In Madueke's absence, Arsenal still boasts solid depth in the attacking third. Youngster Max Dowman is expected to feature against Port Vale, while Gabriel Martinelli, Ethan Nwaneri, and Leandro Trossard are all in contention for minutes. The hope within the club is that Madueke will return to action by November 8 against Sunderland, just ahead of the highly anticipated North London derby versus Tottenham on November 23. However, he's almost certain to miss England's next international break, which follows crucial Arsenal fixtures against Newcastle, Olympiacos, and West Ham. With the 2026 World Cup on the horizon and a spot in Thomas Tuchel's England squad up for grabs, Madueke knows how important the months ahead are. Despite this temporary setback, the winger has shown resilience, and if his performances this season are any indication, he'll come back stronger than ever. Madueke's injury comes at a delicate time for Arsenal, who are juggling domestic competitions alongside a demanding European schedule. With squad rotation more crucial than ever, Arteta must now rely on the depth and adaptability of his attacking unit, especially as the club enters a period packed with high-stakes fixtures. Internally, the coaching staff is said to be cautiously optimistic. According to sources close to the medical team, Madueke is responding well to initial treatment, and there's no indication of long-term structural damage. However, his rehabilitation will be closely monitored, with particular care taken to avoid setbacks. Arsenal's medical department is expected to carry out a follow-up MRI scan next week to determine the full extent of the strain and adjust the recovery timeline accordingly. The injury has also sparked significant discussion among supporters and analysts alike, particularly around Madueke's workload and physical management since his arrival. Despite being only a few months into his Arsenal career, Madueke has featured heavily both for club and country, raising concerns about player burnout, especially in a season with little breathing room between international breaks. In the short term, the winger's absence places added responsibility on players like Martinelli and Trossard, both of whom have had inconsistent fitness records themselves. Ethan Nwaneri, although still very young, could see more minutes in wide roles as Arteta continues to integrate youth into the first-team environment. There's also speculation that Reiss Nelson, who has seen limited action this season, could benefit from an increased role during Madueke's recovery period. National team manager Thomas Tuchel has also been made aware of Madueke's condition, as England begins early preparations for the upcoming World Cup qualifiers. Though the injury rules Madueke out of the next international window, his recent performances have left a strong impression within the national team setup. A return to form in November or December could be enough to keep him in contention for a spot in the squad heading into the new year. Meanwhile, within the Arsenal camp, the mood remains focused. Speaking to reporters after the Port Vale match, several senior players expressed their support for Madueke, describing him as a positive influence in the dressing room and praising his quick adaptation to the club's playing style and philosophy. As the winger begins his recovery, all eyes will be on how Arsenal adjusts, and whether they can maintain their attacking rhythm without one of their most dynamic wide players. While the timing is far from ideal, both the player and the club appear aligned in their cautious yet determined approach. Further updates on Madueke's fitness are expected following next week's medical assessments.